Brexit.
Thank you, Chair. Businesses across London and the rest of UK rely on supply chains that stretch through Europe and around the world. A strong pound combined with unfettered access to goods and services across Europe have been instrumental in driving down costs for consumers in recent years. Since the referendum, however, the fall in the value of the pound has increased costs for many businesses, who have subsequently passed these costs on to customers by raising prices or reducing the size of their products while keeping prices the same. The continued drop in the value of the pound since the referendum has contributed to inflation rising from 0.5% to 2.9%, far above the Bank of England's target of 2%. The UK now ranks top for inflation rates among the G7. There is no published data yet to establish a London-specific picture, but this inflation will inevitably be having an impact on the cost of living in the capital, with goods such as food and fuel increasing in cost. This impacts most severely on the most disadvantaged Londoners. And I'm concerned that wages are not rising fast enough to offset this inflation. If UK businesses face new barriers to trade with the EU, this is only likely to further increase costs and prices, which is why I'm advocating for the UK to remain a member of the single market. I'm doing what I can to help ease the burden on Londoners. I'm making public transport more affordable through my Hopper Fare and TfL fares freeze, which will help Londoners access jobs, education and training. I'm embarking on a programme of delivering genuinely affordable homes for Londoners, and I'm encouraging businesses to pay people a fair wage for a day's work by signing up to the London Living Wage. Tackling low pay and workplace inequality is one of my top priorities, and through my Good Work Standard, I will ensure that employers are supported to share and adopt best practice in employment standards. My Deputy Mayor, Joanne McCartney, has been working with the Living Wage Commission to ensure the analysis which determines the new London Living Wage rate to be announced next month reflects the increase in the cost of living that Londoners may now face.
Thank you. In July, Labour members launched a survey asking Londoners their views about Brexit and how the negotiations were going, and it painted a picture of people really not knowing what the government was aiming at. There's widespread confusion over what the actual asks are for the government. And one of the things that came out quite strongly was exactly this point around the prices. And the report's going to be published quite shortly, but I want to take the opportunity to highlight that 90% of respondents felt that prices had increased since the EU referendum. And when weighted to the population in London, this equated to over 3/4 of Londoners. So people are really starting to feel the Brexit squeeze, and I recognise the work you've been doing in this area to sort of push this agenda. And actually 71% of respondents also felt that wages had stagnated during the same period. So this is all part of a picture in a city where cost of living is already a major issue. How confident are you with some of the points you raise around food prices rising and the cost of living? How confident are you that the government is able to set aside party interests to put the interests of the population? Obviously, in our case, we're particularly keen to push the interests of London. But I think that people are genuinely confused about where the government is heading, and it just feels like in the midst of party arguments, the interests of the population are being lost.
I'm extremely worried about the course of Brexit negotiations. There'll be a statement today from Michael Barnier and David Davis. I've been quite clear in the regular meetings I have with David Davis, the concerns of Londoners. The most recent meeting, I took with me Alice Gast, the President of Imperial. Previously, I've taken John Sorrell, who's involved in the creative industry sector. I'm increasingly worried that for political reasons, the deal that we're doing with the EU won't bear fruit that we need. I accept, by the way, we're leaving the European Union. I've got a view in relation to the timing of the Article 50 notice and the progress of discussions. But the government's got to recognise the uncertainties do nobody any good, but the plummeting pound is causing real problems in relation to the price of goods you referred to. Anybody who could afford to go on holiday overseas will have seen the consequence of the weak pound. Prices are going up. Wages are not going up. Even if the pay cap is lifted, it's still below inflation, so it's in real terms pay cut, and you'll be aware from the research done by TUC and others, because of the pay cap over previous years, If you compare and contrast the wage of most people in London, public servants in particular, 2010 versus now, their wages